All right, here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Firebrand Pursuit. This week, we are joined by Chase Chatswell, a good old friend of Trevor's, coworker of his as well, and I knew you for a little while too as well. Old church friend. So welcome aboard.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you joining on YouTube, you're probably wondering right now why they've got super cool backgrounds and a Star Wars poster, and it looks like I'm moving. That's what's happening right now. I'm like halfway to my destination. We were scheduled to go, so I pulled over to Starbucks, and we're rolling. So making it happen. I got the AirPods. I got my phone plugged in, or my computer plugged into the car. So we're making it happen. So that's cool. I didn't know you guys knew each other. How do you guys went to church together, or what's the story there?
Yeah, during my period of rebellion, Kai kind of took the spot on the youth worship team, and then I would show up from time to time and compliment him playing guitar. That's what would happen.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Oh, that's awesome. That's cool. And it's funny to me because, a lot of this started from the connections I made while working at the coffee shop. So Chase, you and I worked there for a long time together. And then after you moved to Tennessee, and I can't remember if it was your spot I was replacing or not, but it wasn't long after you left that Kai started working at the coffee shop. And then from all that, that's where this all came from. So you're kind of like a day oneer, man. So very cool. Very cool. So for the audience, they hear about us all the time, but tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing over there. And are you still in Tennessee?
I am. This is my dorm room, my little tiny dorm room.
Nice.
That's
very cool. So yeah, talk to us. Give us whatever you want that's fun about you, and then we'll jump into the schooling.
Yeah. California born and raised. Grew up in church, all that kind of stuff. I guess more importantly, why I'm here, I came to Tennessee to originally do music business. So I was there. I was a vocal major, and then I took a New Testament class with the chairhead of theology, and I was like, all right, well, change my major, and and yeah, ever since spring of 2020, I've been doing theology, whether that's I've been reading everything I can try to get my hands on. So
I see your posts, man. I'm like, oh man, he's gonna smoke us.
But here's the thing, though. I post a lot of stuff. I'm trying not to anymore because I change my mind on stuff every other day.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Because there's just there's so much evidence for either side of things. So it's just man, don't get me wrong, I still love R.C. Sproul. I can watch an R.C. Sproul video all day long, but then you got Greg Boyd, and I love Greg Boyd too. Dude, Calvinism, open theism, anything in between, I'm I'll go to either side just for the fun of it.
Just to hear what they're saying.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And they all got good jokes, It's man,
they do, man.
Great speakers and great jokers. Didn't have to work on that. Oh man, that's awesome. I remember you going there for the music business and everything, and then switching, and then you started posting all those books. I was like, man, I don't think I could read that much. I don't think I could, even if I had the time.
Dude, I haven't finished a single book I posted on Instagram. I don't think.
Oh, no.
I post them all the time. I'm jumping between every other book because I'm like, oh man, that's a good point. What does this book have to say about that issue?
Oh, nice.
So I haven't finished a single book I've posted about yet.
Oh, that's hilarious. I finished the Star Wars book I was reading. That was about it in the last 2 years. I'm just kidding, but I really did, but it's not the only thing. All right, man. Well, per our usual, I've got what you're passionate about, and Kai has no idea what we're going to talk about today. So I've got that.
Coming in blind.
And for future guests, man, Chase knocked it out. You made a PDF. It's all typed out. This is the easy. I didn't even have to do anything. I was like, man, this is going to be a cakewalk. So Just if you want to be on the show, just type it up, man. Send that to me. That's easy. I know exactly what we're doing. All right.
You know what? It was funny about that PDF I sent you. It took me a solid minute to find that picture I put up on that PDF because that. We'll get to that, but like I remember seeing that when it first came out and was like, "Excuse me." But anyways, we'll get to that. We'll get to that point. We'll get there. But,
it'll be funny because when I saw it, I was like, oh, "Wait, man, does he think that stuff?" I was like, "No, maybe." I was like, "That's not what we talked about last time."
We'll get to that picture in a minute.
I'll have to put it up too, like in the video, like cut it in so people can see it real quick. Because normally we'll be able to do that, but I didn't even show Kai that picture, so
good.
It's gonna be fun.
Good. It's gonna be a shock, man.
Oh yeah, totally. So
All
cool.
right.
Well, let's jump right in. Number one, we want to talk about the problems with modern churches. I like that because there's a lot of them. There's a lot to unpack there and how to deal with it. So I don't know about you guys, but I'll just switch to another church. I mean, close, open and shut case on that one, or I'm just playing. That's definitely not the way to handle it. I was like, whoa. Oh,
yeah.
Man. I'm going to get myself in trouble with that. No, I've been at the same church for a long time, and I've gotten in trouble. I'm just playing. So the first point, and feel free, if you guys got to look something up or whatever, we're not doing editing anymore. So awkward pauses, silence, I'm comfortable with it. The audience will get comfortable with it, or they'll make fun of us. I mean, it'll be fine. I'm sure it's already happening by now if they made it to this part of the video. So one of the points that Chase made, Kai, and maybe you can speak to this, and if you need anything looked up, let me know. A problem that he's noticed, or you can speak more to this, but yeah, so why don't you take it away first, Chase, and share with Kai, what do you mean by shallow, me-focused sermons?
Yeah. I've seen it a lot on Instagram. Like people post like these like short little clips of sermons of like these big pastors, and it's all about, oh, you can just do it if you push on a little harder. You have enough faith. You keep pushing. And it's just it's these really big. How do I fit myself into the Bible, and how do I be this archetype of a character? And it's less about what that is trying to teach you, and more about how you can be just as good as that. If that makes sense.
Totally.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Kai?
Yeah. No, I've definitely noticed that. Man. Yeah, I think that's like you said, like you see those on Instagram, on like TikTok and stuff like that a lot, because it's easy to find like quick little inspiring quotes that are like, yeah, this is shareable, this is good stuff to kind of put out there and draw people in, because like I think like those types of sermons in general, I think are pretty you can use it, I guess the term like seeker sensitive is one I've heard thrown around a lot in the last couple of days, as I've been taking in some content and stuff that's kind of, I think, pertains to this, but yeah, I've definitely noticed that. And for me personally, I'm thankful. I grew up like in the Calvary, within Calvary, and for the most part, Calvary is very expository, verse by verse, foundational, like teaching, book by book, verse by verse. So I'm blessed to say that I've never like found myself too much in like a place where the teachers were doing like topical, like just teach whatever I want from this one verse that I choose type teaching. But I've definitely seen it a lot, and seen it become prevalent in these times.
I see your point there too, and I agree. There's an element of, pastors they got to take care of their church. They got to equip those people for different things. But I think that what I'm hearing a little bit from both of you too is like, it's kind of a first misstep when you start to make it about you every time, and to the point where you're starting to see the Bible as about you, or it starts to revolve around you, and that gets dangerous. And so it's definitely the first step down that way. And if you don't like recognize it and at least think about it, it gets worse. And so I really like the way Chase set this up, because it just goes boom, 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 like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Where are we now? So the next point, we talk about this, is that the sermon becomes like a hyped up motivational speech. So I'm not going to say any names, but just take it for what you will.
I'm not going to name a pastor, but I can name the area in which it's in. Good old North Carolina.
It's funny because I have a buddy who, we talk about it all the time, and I'm like, it's a little questionable, and there's been some other church leaders that, in some ways they kind of resemble that. And I've listened to them talk, and I really see the genuine heart, the genuine want to follow Christ and serve Him and equip their people. And so it really has to be pretty staunch for me to be like, yeah, I just can't do that. Like, there's some wacky stuff, but there's definitely some where it's like, this is so far, man.
And I want to say too that I'm not against a Christian motivation speech, and I'm not opposed to a pastor being motivational to their congregation. I think it becomes more of a problem in this context when it's all they do.
Yep.
My pastor a couple weeks ago, or maybe a couple months ago, but he said something, and I was just like, that's what I want to hear. He was like, you can't do it alone. You can't do it by yourself. He told us you can't do it. You're not good enough to do it. And I was like, that's the gospel. You can't do it alone. That's the whole point. And that's all I didn't want. And I heard that, and I was like, that's why I know I'm at a good church. Because I was told I can't do it by myself. And not to say that these churches, and it's not to say these churches are teaching that you can do it by yourself, but the focus is on you doing it.
Yeah.
And they're
betterment.
And like I said, if that was like a topical thing for the church at that time, where the pastor really saw that the people needed something that was uplifting, then yes. But it's all they talk about.
Yeah, and I think Kai nailed it, seeker sensitive, and that just kind of breeds this, just a pool of Christians who are very young in the faith, don't understand many things, and what it does is it leaves them vulnerable to attack later or being misled, and they're like, man, this isn't what I thought it was, or they never changed, and someone's like, oh, you can't do that, and they're like, what do you mean? And I think that the point that those people maybe need to hear is that it's like what you said, it's like you can't do it alone. We're all made in God's image, and there's something intrinsically valuable about that. It can't be taken away. But there's also something internally broken that we need Jesus for. And that, you're right. That's the gospel. You can't do that alone. And so it's like, you got to hear that at some point. It's like I think about, I had to hear that at some point and agree with it. Or disagree with it and go the other way. Make that choice. What are you thinking, Kai?
It's just to go along with I think it's very falls in line with the whole seeker sensitive just mindset, I guess, and that's a hot word for it, but just when you see the pastors and the preachers and the teachers who do that, and then you see the size of their church and the kinds of people you see the celebrities or the big name people going to those churches, and it's not that I ever want to question people's faith or the depth of their belief in Christ or anything like that, but when those teachers are teaching that way, it just makes it a whole lot easier for people to come. And so I think that's a good reason why they have a bigger reach than they do, because they're not teaching the hard things, and they're not teaching the things that are hard, but are also what's beautiful about the gospel and about the faith is that we're not good enough to do it on our own, but but Christ still loves us and died for us, even though we're not up to it, up to par.
Totally.
But you guys said a good bit of that as well. But
Yeah, and you made me think of this too. It's like I've seen it in some strange like corners, like no, probably not even like big names, but they get big followings, and there's some people who they preach that real bland, that real vague, and it does make it so easy for people to come because they don't have to do anything. They don't have to change. They can just show up, and it makes them feel good. And so that experiential part of it is a whole nother deal too. That if the experience is what you're chasing, then that's something that should be a warning flag. Like maybe I'm not here for the right reason.
And I think one of the biggest like detriments to a really shallow teaching is that when people do have the hard questions, they're going to fall quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing that like here at my school, there's a theology major and then there's a pastoral major. And the biggest thing I have a problem with that the pastoral major is that it focuses on how to teach stuff, but not what to teach necessarily. So there's like a hard separation. It's like theology students go to the classes that are about the book of John, the book of Luke, and about the very specific details. And they go on how to read it and how to turn that into a sermon. And that's kind of like a lot of these pastors, they're coming out of school and like they know how to talk and they know how to use verses, but they're not using the verses right. And they're making it different. And that's the biggest thing is we're getting a group of pastors that really are passionate about what they're talking about and getting people motivated and getting people to stand up and agree with them. And people will. People love being told they can do it. People don't like being told that they're walking themselves into hell. And that's the biggest thing that a lot of these older pastors are doing is that, like, look, you're walking yourself there. You just need to try it out.
Yeah, it's definitely like a cultural shift with like younger, and I've spoken with some older Christians, and they're like, "Yeah, it's so strange. Like, where did this come from?" You know, and they're a little surprised by it. But I'm gonna be asking the hard questions, so I'm gonna hit you with one, Chase. So ready yourself.
Shoot.
So we're talking about this problem, and I don't ever want to just like point out problems. I want what I love about this is we're just chatting. We're not going to solve world problems here, but we might find the person that will, and they might hear this, and it might put them on the right track. So, just at a glance, what's something you think that could improve this situation or help it in some way?
Yeah,
you got some time to think about it.
Man. It's really tough because I feel like the people that are teaching the hard stuff are always going to be the minority. And that's kind of what sucks, is that the Bible kind of teaches that those in the right are going to be the minority. Those who know the word and those who go after seeking God are kind of always going to be the ones that are either persecuted or not accepted. And I think there's a difference because, like, America, we're not persecuted, but we're definitely not necessarily listened to.
More and more.
Yeah, we're not listened to more and more, and it's become a norm. And I think that's the problem, is that we're seeing a divide in Christianity where nowadays people want to hear good stuff, and this is where my second kind of topic ties in with this first one, is that we're seeing a move from conservative, and I mean this in a traditional Christian way, not a political way. I want to make that clear. We're seeing a move from conservative Christianity to progressive Christianity.
Oh man. You didn't write it anywhere on that page, but it was all over it. I knew that was coming in.
That's kind of the shift that we're seeing in our culture, is that we're seeing a huge divide in conservative Christianity and progressive Christianity, and then we have this gray area where a lot of these bigger churches don't talk about those issues, but they're willing to take anybody from either side. And what happens is that they all think that what they're doing is right, when the church itself doesn't agree with what the progressive Christians say, but they're not going to talk about it. They don't believe in what the conservative Christians say, but they're not going to talk about it. They're going to
Yeah.
they're going to record music, record TikToks, and they're going to get people. That's the thing. And
Yeah.
so we're seeing a huge split, and I don't know if traditional biblical Christianity is ever going to grow until the end.
Interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, and I mean that it is very tough because, like, inarguably, they are good at getting people in the doors. I mean,
Yes, they are.
and in a way that's valuable. Such, you know, I say it a lot about a lot of different situations. Like, man, I don't envy being in that position and having to make that call, and so it motivates me to, like, pray for them. Like, man, God, do your thing there. But yeah, I think that I was talking about it before. You know, if you're going to a church, if you can't find out what they believe, you know, is it a church? I mean, what do they believe? Who do they believe in? And so it's kind of our responsibility to find that out.
And a big thing too is I personally find it really important to go to a church that's a part of a denomination, because that denomination has standards. And not that non-denominational churches don't, but it is harder to find what that church believes if they are non-denominational.
Yeah,
because if they're non-denom, they might not put the hard details in there. Like I'm personally have grown up in Assemblies of God. I'm in a Church of God area, which is nearly the same thing. It's still conservative Pentecostalism. So I'm in that environment, and I mean, we got everything listed. You go on AG's website, you're going to find topics on homosexuality. Oh gosh, everything you can, abortion, all those big topical issues, you're going to find it, and they're going to have a position on it. And I bet you, if you go to one of those churches, they're going to talk about it. And you're not seeing that in a lot of big churches.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I was going to talk about small churches. It's like, if you're in a small church that happens to be non-denom, hopefully the pastor's accessible. Like, you can get in touch with him, talk to him about these things, see where he's at, and then if you don't agree, well, then you got to make the call. Like, is this a deal breaker? Is this something that's, like, essential? And you know, sometimes it is that way. But then you're not just leaving because you're in trouble or you're angry or something. You know, that's more of an honorable way to do it. You know, and then you get to have a good conversation, probably with a guy who really wants to do his best for Christ. But yeah, when a big church doesn't do that, then to me it just kind of reads pandering. Like, you just don't want to get in trouble, and that's probably not a good thing. What are you thinking, Kai? And what do you think could help?
No, yeah, I was gonna. Well, before you said that, Chase, I was thinking, like, these churches that are doing this, they're not there yet, but they're on their way to, like, progressive Christianity, and it's like, and it falls in just, I think, with culture at large, like, nowadays, and, like, a lot of postmodern thinking, just that you don't want to be the one that says no to people and that rejects people and their identities or who they say they are, and how they choose to live, because it's just like a rejection of their truth and what they think about themselves and how they see themselves. And I, like Trevor, you and I have had a lot of, or a few talks about progressive Christianity and truth and absolute truth. And as we were, we were kind of writing up bios last week and coming up with some, what was it, like target demographics of what we think we're shooting the podcast for. And it's a lot to do with truth and finding absolute truth. And I think that's a lot of what the world isn't doing these days.
And that's
and
they don't want it.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I'll say this: if you're listening to this right now and you've ever been like, man, I want to know what is true, like, you are in the right place, because, like, we pinpointed it. There you go.
Oh yeah,
you're gonna get there, man. So yeah. To help that, you know, it's really tough. I mean, in some cases, it's just going to be praying for those people. And one thing that I really liked, I was listening to this pastor talk, and And it's someone who he does hold some views that are controversial to some. To me, it's nothing that's not essential. So it's someone that I listen to once in a while. And I mean, I don't even want to get into names, but what I loved is, I mean, he gets blasted a lot, and I was like, man, this guy really like takes a lot of hits. So I watched an interview, and the interviewer's like, what do you think about that? You know, that seems like your worst enemy is other Christians. And he was like, you know, I love Jesus, and I want to serve him my best, and I think that they do too. And that's why they're so passionate about what they're passionate about. So I pray for them and their families. You know, he got choked up, and I thought that was really cool and respectable. You know, and that's kind of where I land on some things. If it's non-essential, I think that we can be at peace. But when it gets to a church that won't take a stand on something that is just cut and dry, it's in the scripture, it's right there. That's a problem. And then it's all you can do is just pray for them and talk to the people that are getting ousted, because after a while, you know, you get tired of that vagueness, that never really having that concrete, and the other side of that is they never get in the Bible, so it's challenging those people. Well, go look this up, and what do you think? I've had some experiences like that with people where they're going somewhere, and it's not necessarily something so strong, but it's just something I know is a little off, and I invite them, like, hey, if you see anything that's off in mine, you know, challenge me, tell me, I'll look at it, I'll talk to people. But I said, but I noticed this about this church, so what do you think about that? And then I kind of show them the scripture, and I just kind of let them do all the thinking. And, you know, months go by, and they come back and like, yeah, that really made an impact. And I was like, well, thank the Lord for it, because I didn't know what I was doing. But I think it's going to come with that gentleness and really just trying to show them the truth. Because once you find that solid truth, that foundation, it gives you so much more to build your life on, so much more transformation. That's when you I mean, it's like I feel way more on top of the world doing it Christ's way, by the book, you know, than I ever did trying to do it my own way. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just totally, it just seems weaker to me, you know, like, man. So I don't know what you guys think about that. I'm ranting a little bit.
No, I think if you find yourself, like, I don't know, if you are in a position as a pastor or leader in a church where you have a large gathering and a large congregation, and maybe you aren't, like, you do teach in a way that is easier to draw people, and it's not like firmly teaching the hard and fast truth. I think, Trevor, you posed a question to me one time, like, if you found yourself as like one of those pastors, what would you do? How would you handle it? Like, if you were there and you were suddenly convicted with, like, I need to preach the Bible, like, and what it truly says. And it's hard, but, like, it's the priority is, like, what you have to question there. Like, are you trying to get a congregation of like 15 to 20,000 people, or are you trying to preach the truth? Because, like, you said it too, Chase, like, the people who are teaching the hard and fast truth of the Bible and the gospel message of not just salvation, but sin, and that we are sinners and that we're broken, that we need saving and we can't do it on our own. Most people don't want to hear that. And I think a lot of people who are going to those churches aren't hearing that. And that's why they want to be going there, because it's easy to go and hear a motivational speech once or twice a week. And it's harder to go and hear that there are things that you need to be changing in your life, and you always have to be changing in your life, because we're always going to find ourselves in sin, no matter how well we're doing and how far along in our faith we are. But yeah, it's just it goes back to truth. We have to, like, prioritize truth and quality of teaching over the quantity of the people that we're teaching to, I think.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's a huge thing.
Totally. All right. Well, there's going to be some cutting and some clipping in the episode. I mean, that's a great segue, great cliffhanger for the next episode. So we're going to keep on rolling, and I'm going to cut it in half right here. So for all of those listening right now, you know, if you're liking this stuff, please subscribe, like on Instagram, whatever, all that stuff. And if you want to be on the podcast, You can email us at, what is it, Kai? Firebrandpursuit@gmail.com. That should be it.
That's it, yeah.
It'll be in the description. So awesome. All right. So for you guys, it'll be next week. We're talking about truth. All right.
See you guys then.
Welcome to Firebrand Pursuit. This podcast exists to provide a platform to encourage passionate and candid conversations between Christians and people of other worldviews. We want to bring a Christian perspective that is firmly founded in biblical principles to bear in the setting of all social and theological issues that the church must contend with. We also want to discuss other worldviews and provide a safe space where those conversations can be shared in a mature and exciting fashion. This podcast was created by myself, Trevor Turk, and Kai Wilbanks. Because we lack formal theological training, and the fact that we are not pastors or ministers means that we find ourselves in a very similar position to the majority of the church and people in general.
We hope that by promoting thought in the church, we might better contend for the gospel within society. We also hope that by giving people of other worldviews a chance to share what they think and believe, we will both create a culture of healthy debate as well as represent the gospel in the closest fashion to Christ that we can. These sincere and passionate desires are what drive us to share with you Firebrand Pursuit.